Welcome. This is the Photo Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things photo and video. I'm your host, Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. And we are bringing you today a very special Questions of Reddit.
Yes, Reddit questions.
So,
we haven't run out of ideas. There are just lots of questions on Reddit that we think were genuinely good for once.
Yeah,
so we want to answer them.
Yeah. Every once in a while, we comb the internet to see what things people are interested in, and there were just a lot of really good ones lately.
Yeah. So we combed through Reddit and we picked out the extra good ones to bring to you today. I guess we can just get started.
Dive right in here.
All right.
All right, so our first question, what do you do with all your favorite photos?
Nothing.
I kind of figured that would be your answer.
What favorite photos? I don't shoot anything that I like.
Yeah, I knew that'd be your favorite photos. So I have some answers. I know you do nothing.
I have some further answers. But.
So, I mean, the first thing is if it's something that's really, really, really good, I will print it as some kind of sample piece. So on the wall behind me, for any of you watching the YouTube channel, I have wedding samples and landscape samples and kind of all the different things I do. That sample wall's done, and I don't plan on replacing it anytime soon because it is quite new. But for weddings, I set them aside, and this might be one of next year's, wedding show samples. For a lot of stuff is just, that's a great one for the website, constantly making sure the portfolio online is the best it can absolutely be.
Yep.
So kind of copying them and putting them in their own kind of special categorized folder of like, these are all my favorite headshots. These are all my favorite landscapes. These are, So I do some of that. I do some prints of just things that I like, but mostly just like social media.
Yeah. I would say like since we have can I still claim it's a new house if we've been in it for a year-ish? We have a new-ish house to us, and we have many empty walls that we're slowly...
You're still doing a lot of like...
Yeah.
I wouldn't say moving in, but let's call it renovating and making the space make sense.
So we're slowly adding stuff there. Right now, the most prints we have in the house are Ben's work.
You have one print from your engagement session and one print from your wedding. Yes. I know because I printed them for you.
Exactly. So we've got prints from Ben. We don't have any personal prints up yet. I have some stuff printed. I actually bought some frames to do a photo wall kind of thing. Not too far back.
But I also know one of the walls in your house either needs to be rebuilt or torn down because it doesn't go to the ceiling. So,
yes,
you're not ready to put stuff up on some of your walls yet.
Not quite, but we're planning on it. So I have a very vague collection of stuff that I've shot that I would eventually like to print and put in this photo collection. I actually got a bunch because the plan is to start with sort of an arrangement and then add on to it over time. So I have like a dozen frames for it or something. So it'll be like a living project at least until we fill up all the frames, and then I don't know, maybe we kick out the old stuff.
Yeah, that's the problem I have. I have a similar thing going up my stairwell. But what happens when that's full? Yeah. No more art, not allowed. Nothing new.
Yep, that's it. So yeah, social media sometimes. I'm really bad at social media right now. I've been bad at social media, I should say, for a while, and that's a common question I get is like, you don't post anything on social media. Like I just don't feel like it.
Social media can be exhausting for sure.
Exactly. So props to those of you that do actually keep an active social media account. I like looking at them. I enjoy browsing the content. Do I do that myself? Not as much as I probably should.
No, I am absolutely... I say I probably post on social media on a semi-monthly-ish basis, which is not nearly enough. I know, but
sounds about right.
I'm paying my bills and I'm doing my best. So social media comes second to that.
Here's a slightly more businessy technical one. Should you have a .photography, .photo, or other specialty domain for your business?
Ooh.
What do you think about
the last
domains?
The last time I looked into that, they were obscenely expensive. So I said, nope.
Depends on the one.
Screw that.
Yeah. Some are. Some of them are. Some of them aren't. I have a couple. I have like a Stewart.photo one or photos or something, and some guy pestered me for so long to sell it to him, and I'm like, nah, not interested. Do I do anything with it?
No. It's your name, though.
But it's my name, and it's a first name as well. It's just first name dot photo. So I was like, I'll keep it. At some point, maybe it'll be nice to have a gallery online or something that I want to share. I think maybe it redirects to my... Oh, wait, no, that's not even public anymore. It used to redirect to a public SmugMug account I had where I shot a... I was part of a course, and I shot a bunch of photos during this whole course that we had of everybody in it and what we were doing, and I shared that with people, and I used the domain for that, but
I remember that.
But I no longer have that public. So yeah, sorry dude that tried to buy it from me. No, I'm not using it. Maybe I will someday, and that's worth paying the $10 a year, whatever that it cost me.
Yeah.
To answer the actual question, I think it's fine. .coms are still king, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at that. People default when you say that you have a website to assuming it's a .com.
So one thing that I will say is I have a .photo.
Mm-hmm.
So my photo booth, triple-click photo, is triple-click.photo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, ooh, I'm so fancy. Except some people type in triple-click-photo.com and that goes nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or if nowhere that I know of anyway.
That
doesn't go to me.
That was going to be my comment, is if you have a .photo or something along those lines, my recommendation would be to also buy the triple-click photo.com and then have those redirect to the same thing.
I'm so lazy, I didn't want to.
You can use a fancy one. You can put your business cards. It looks cool. If you're like being interviewed, people like to see fancy domains on your resume. I've received comments, at least many times, personally, of people being like, "Ooh, you have a custom domain. Like, you must know something." But should you? Sure, if you enjoy that kind of thing, but also have a .com equivalent to redirect.
Yeah,
ideally. It's becoming less of a problem over time, but it's still.
Yeah. Is it ever in bad taste to photograph certain things? Yes, it is in bad taste. Flowers, people on railroad tracks,
sunsets, anything with too much HDR.
So no. I know what the original intent of this question is, but I start with that joke because if you take a picture of the flower, it sucks and I already hate it. It better be the best photo of a flower I've ever seen in my entire life. It better be so dang artistic that this should go in the Met. Like this is the level you should be at if you're shooting these stupid, mundane things that every student photographer has shot 10,000 times before they realize that's dumb. I'm going to stop doing that. So those are just, you have bad taste if you shoot them, but that's not what the question actually was.
Yeah. I think the ultimate answer to this one is it's so heavily contextual that it's hard to give exact answers.
It is. My personal,
like, what's your immediate reaction?
My immediate line is I'm going to kind of be a little pedantic about this and classify it a little bit, but private people without their consent. So now I know there are street photographers, and some street photographers do candid moments or whatever, and some street photographers will walk up to their subject, be like, "Hey, I'm a street photographer. You're super interesting. Can I take your photo?" I love that. That kind of street photography, dope. I don't do it. I'm not going to. I'm not interested in that kind of photography, but cool, you do you. However, I also say that because there's one level of like our politicians and our celebrities, and there's one thing about photographing them to kind of like keep them accountable and free journalism and all of that. But people who are not gonna show up in next week's newspaper, there's no reason to shoot them and then be like, "Hey, are you taking my picture?" You're like, don't do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where is it technically legal if they're in a public place? If they're in a private location, you have no leg to stand on. If they're in a public location,
like let's say on a bus,
I mean, technically there's no expectation of
privacy because
you're in public.
But,
however, is it in good taste?
Yeah,
no.
This didn't say is it legal. It said is it ever in bad taste, and yeah, I think so.
One thing that I think is a common answer to this, especially in the street photography world, is
I also don't do street photography, so don't at me.
But homeless people. I was gonna say homeless people. That is a boy, there's only like one time that I could think that photographing homeless people would be a good idea, and that's if you are a reporter and you're doing it very
Like a story.
carefully and with as much consent as you can get, and you're reporting on what's going on, and it's a story, and it has journalistic integrity. That's like the only time that I can really see that being legit.
I have taken a photo of a homeless person one time. I was in Italy. He threw a beer bottle at my head and started screaming, and so I took a photo to have evidence of this story.
There's the other reason.
I'm like, people are not going to believe me that this just went down.
Okay, you found a second reason to do it. All right, those are the two reasons to photograph homeless people. Other than that, I would say exceedingly poor taste. This is something that I've seen increasingly online that's kind of disturbing. Less in photos, I think, except here and there it happens, but more video where people are like, I'm going to go and mess with homeless people on my TikTok or on my YouTube, or I'm going to go and give them a sandwich and hope that they start crying so that I get social clout, stuff like that.
Stop
like,
being a garbage person and actually care about people.
Not cool. Not in good taste. Legal, perhaps, but in exceedingly poor taste, in my opinion. So yeah. That kind of stuff.
Don't be a dick. I don't know how many times we have to say that.
I feel like it's the golden rule. Like everything to some degree is contextually dependent. However, please just
Yep.
If you have that question, if you question in your mind, is this in good taste to photograph? The answer is probably no.
Speaking of things that are incredibly textual dependent, this was actually one question that we pulled out of today's episode because we are going to retextualize it and make it its own episode. But there was someone who asked, I'm trying to remember the question now. It was, people don't want to pay my prices. How do I need to change my careers?
Yeah.
And I thought, that's an interesting question. And if you actually dig into the contextual of that one, it's I live in a third world country, but I want people to pay me American style prices. Like, dude, that's not the economy where you are. So context is king. Context is everything. So we are going to flesh that one out as a full episode that is more relevant for our audience here. Because I think that's an interesting discussion to have regardless of whatever that guy said.
It's a very legitimate question, that particular context aside.
We're going to spend a good 30 minutes talking about that one coming up here on the channel sometime soon. So I'm gonna take a good kind of mid-roll break here. That hit the subscribe button, like bell. If you're listening to us in podcasts, you probably already did that. Thumbs up, share with your friends, word of mouth. Tell other people that we're doing stuff you find interesting. So all that is super appreciated. And if you love this so much, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/nomcreative. You can give us $1. It's a tip jar.
High roller.
Yeah, I know. It will absolutely break the bank to support us. No, it won't. It's $1. And so we appreciate all of those things that help keep us going. We do actually have some questions. We just wanted to pat it out, and then we saw Reddit was on fire this month, so that's why. Why we're just doing Redditor questions. But we will get back to your individual questions. I think this is going to be a part 2. So after we finish our little Reddit roundup. But thank you for allowing me to do kind of a mid-roll credit. This ad is sponsored by me.
The only ads we will accept are from Lawa. So,
no,
and they still haven't sponsored us.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I will sell out. No one has tried to buy me yet. Lawa, add us. Okay.
Okay, next one.
Next question. Photographers
was that
of
in poor
Reddit.
taste? Speaking of taste, was that in poor taste?
Nah. Photographers of Reddit, what is the craziest thing that you've heard from a client? There were some great ones in the comments, but Stuart, what's one of the craziest thing you've heard from a client?
Boy, a lot of mine are variations of the classic, like make it pop, make it more interesting, make it
Can you make my logo
thing.
bigger while also having more negative space? No,
Yeah.
those things are completely contradictory.
Yeah, there's lots of like wild client language where
it needs more color, but also the color needs to be black.
Yeah, like at best it means nothing, and at worst it is fully contradictory with what they actually want. And so, client management important. Figuring out, I feel like that's half the job, is figuring out what clients are trying to articulate to you.
So that does come up when I do commercial work. So right now, I'm doing a job that I currently cannot say what it is of or for who, but it is going to be the side of a box for a product that is coming up in a store. And for this product on the side of the box, the production manager for the company who hired me, it was in charge of finding the stock photo. I'm in charge of shooting the product on white and compositing it into the stock photo. I did my lighting, I did my retouching, I did all my editing. I made the product look amazing, and then I sent it off to them and said, "Do you need any edits?" Like, when I do a wedding, there's no feedback. I don't send you your photos and be like, "What would you like me to change?" "Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't like your veil on the left side. Let's change that a little bit and do it again."
Too bad.
None of that ever happens in like the private photography world, but in the commercial photography world, there's this back and forth, and there's this editing, and there's these changes. And they said, "Oh yeah, we don't like the stock photo," so they sent me a new one. I'm like, okay, fine. But the old one had vinyl flooring that was highly reflective, so I shot the product on a reflective surface so that I could very easily translate that reflection to the stock photo. The new one's carpet. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Great.
So I'm redrawing all the shadows so I don't have to photograph it again and do the retouching again. And yeah, that's
cool.
I'm glad that people don't ask me for edits, but in commercial photography, people ask you for edits.
Yes.
So
yes.
that happens. Let's see. What are some of the craziest things I've heard? The one that always gets under my skin, it's kind of the equivalent of saying, "I'm not racist, but," and you're like, "Oh, I'm about to hear something racist." Whenever a client says the word "just," I just need
Awful.
this. Well, I'm about to get something horrifically complicated that is not going to pay well. That is what the word "just" means.
This has been like my entire career is dealing with the word "just." People
we just need a quick Python script website. We just need
do this
400 photos of all of our product line.
I will say though, if you hear the word "just," you're probably doing something right. And
you're making it seem effortless.
Exactly. I was going to say, my perception of that is I'm making my work seem so easy that the client is like, wow, like if they can do this with seemingly little effort from their perspective, which is what you would want a client to think in many cases, and any little addition to that to them seems like, well, you should be able to do this, no problem. It should be easy for you. You're the professional. So like the optics of you for the client are very good because they have high confidence that you can accomplish something difficult in a very short period of time.
Oh, absolutely.
However, you know the reality of it's not that simple. So it's sort of a good thing to hear. Like you have a good perception going for you, but it's not very rewarding.
That's true. I do have an impressive boast story that it's not directly related, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. This week I had a wedding client from 2015 contact me. That's 8 years ago for those of you counting.
When recording.
Contact me and say, "Hey, the thumb drive, all the files are corrupted." So you know what happens when you try to open a JPEG file and like the top third of it shows up, but then you get the line of red, the line of green, and then the rest of it's
like
gray.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe
files.
maybe they broke their thumb drive, maybe something happens.
Thumb drives are very.
This is why you back things up.
Yeah.
Of like I do want the products that I give them to last, but I also understand you have to back that up because it's not going to last forever, right?
Personal responsibility.
So there's that. But they're like, "Hey, we lost all of our wedding photos." I checked the timestamp on the time that I in 1 second replied back, "Yes, let me check. I'm sure I can do that for you." Took me 7 minutes to find my archive drive, upload their whole gallery, and resend it to them. And I'm like, pat on the back. I'm impressed. So I get some random ones like that.
Wow,
just
you
like,
actually care for your data and you take care of it.
But that's one of like, hey, I'm a client you probably don't remember because you did something for me a decade ago and we haven't talked since. That happens more frequently than you'd think, which is why it's important to back up your data, which we have done so many episodes about. I'll put a link to one of those down in the doobly-doo there. Can I print this one from Facebook? That's another.
Oh yeah,
you can. I'd rather you didn't. If you pay me to buy an 8x10, it will look so much better.
You know, this question in this episode, as a result, is going to age very poorly because I guarantee there's going to be some deluge of AI-related photo questions from clients about to hit, and we just haven't experienced it yet. It's just a matter of time.
Absolutely. Let's see what else. Oh, I got one. I had a CPA hire me for headshots.
Okay.
In the first week of April. And this is the only
Okay.
time. This was several years ago. This is the only time I've ever
April's
had
kind of a bad time
for CPAs.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're like, I hate them. I said, okay, I want all my clients to be happy. I'm like, what don't you like about them? He's like, I look exhausted. I'm like, yeah, bro, I can't help you. You literally picked the absolute worst time to be a CPA and get a headshot.
You know, no offense, CPAs are getting headshots, but I don't care what you look like. I want to see your spreadsheets, man.
Yeah. I don't want you to look dead, though. He looked kind of raggedy and awful that week, which honestly,
fair.
you're busy at the beginning of April. I don't blame you, but
Man, what do your Excel macros look
bro,
like?
Wait,
That's what I
wait a
wanna
month
see.
and then get a new headshot. I don't know what the rush was at that
Bad
time.
timing.
Yeah, bad timing. Next question. Wedding advice for the non-professional. I'm gonna click on this one and see where the actual question is. I've always been interested in photography, but I am not a professional. Oh, okay, I remember this one. I was asked to photograph a family member's wedding. They do not want to pay for a professional, so I'm asking for advice. What additional equipment do I need? What recommendations of brand quality? What tips, best angles, things to avoid?
Ooh, that's a big question.
I'm the one who shoots weddings, so I'll lead this one.
Sure.
First of all, you are not getting paid. Invest in nothing. The kit you have is good. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have asked you.
I was gonna say one of the first things being, what brands of camera should I buy? Like, danger.
The one you already own. Okay, so here's the thing. This friend does not want to pay for a professional, so by asking you, whatever gear you have, that's what they get. Like, I totally understand. Like, I did my first wedding, and my first wedding was, hey, I do not have any lenses that can shoot in a dark church. All my lenses are like 5.6 zoom lenses. I need a 2.8. This lens cost $1,300. So for my first wedding, I got paid $1,300.
Very fair.
Like, I made no money, but I got a new lens, and they got a cheap wedding photographer. So you know, there's that. You can ask them to pay you something. I don't know from this question if they are. It sounds like they're not. The second thing, though, is like, do not bother investing in gear or second shooters or any of that BS. You are asking the wrong questions. Look for good lighting. Look for good moments. Focus on the couple. Don't forget the details, but focus on the couple. And if you haven't done weddings before or haven't been to a lot of weddings, make sure you sit down with them ahead of time. Have them walk you through the whole day, the whole timeline, all of the intimate details, all the way down to, okay, you're doing the cake cutting. Where's the cake going to be in the room? Any of this? What's your layout plan? How long are you doing this? Like really spend an hour or two with them to dig in so that nothing surprises you. If they are doing I actually just shot a wedding a couple of weeks ago where it wasn't a flash dance, like other people didn't join in, but it started with that, like, you know, middle school distance slow dancing, and then went into a very high paced swing number.
Interesting.
It did like the record scratch, juke out, and then all of a sudden just da 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 da. But you can surprise everyone else. You cannot surprise your photographer. If you surprise your photographer and they miss it,
you'll be disappointed.
Boo. So,
yeah, having been in this position before where I was asked to photograph family or friend weddings, that
I didn't know you shot a wedding.
I have. And that was basically the case of like, hey, we want some photographs at our wedding. We don't want to pay a photographer to do it. Reading between the lines, of course, and they got what I already had on hand, and they were happy with it. They're very reasonable.
I'm curious. So I've been shooting weddings for over 10 years, so my perspective might be a little divorced from I don't know what people don't know. So what tips do you have having shot a wedding? Even though that's not your normal thing. So someone who, like your position, has casually been asked.
Yeah, so I guess my biggest thing, I was very concerned about this, but like my biggest thing with like a friend or family wedding is you want to be extremely clear about expectations. Now
you don't want to burn a relationship.
Yeah, it helps to go through all that stuff. Like setting expectations can be all the things that you said, which were, you know, like meet with them, talk through the day, figure out what's going on, you know, figure out what they expect out of this process. Because my biggest concern with that wedding was, are they going to come back and be mad because they didn't get a professional output for a for zero
price,
for $0? Yeah. And thankfully, they had very realistic expectations, but that is a trap that you can fall into so fast. Unfortunately, there's some people that are friendly to you, but they're not actually your friends. And they look at something like this to get a value out of you, and they are willing to push you and be mean to get what they want. And you shouldn't let people walk all over you. And you should be willing to burn that bridge if they don't actually have your best interests in mind.
I do have a piece of advice. Have a contract. Even if they are paying you $0. Now, here, my contract has like 13 different paragraphs or something, I think.
Yep.
But here is the absolute minimum that you need to have. Here's what you're going to get. Here's when you're going to get it. And you need to include a clause that says, if for whatever reason I am liable and things go absolute worst case scenario and you end up suing me for ruining your wedding, by signing this, you are not allowed to sue me for more than the amount that I have been paid. That's in my contract. So if I absolutely whiff a wedding and it was a $5,000 wedding, I shot that wedding for free, and I have to give them their $5,000 back. But they cannot say, you ruined my wedding, I'm suing you for $100,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you signed a contract saying that it is limited to the amounts that I've been paid. Sign a contract. Also, if you're doing it for free, say that I have the copyright, I'm allowed to use these photos in my portfolio. So that way, the next 100%. Time someone asks me to shoot a wedding, I have something to show.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more that we could get into. It's copyright and contracts and all
but
of
just
that
be careful.
Stuff.
Make sure expectations are very clear.
Yes. I am the type of person who I over-communicate what my expectations are, and sometimes that annoys people. Like, I'm setting up a new D&D group right now, and they're like, oh my God, so much talking. Let's just play already. But I have been burned so many times by thinking our expectations are the same and then realizing they are not. That I'm like, I'm going to be very crystal clear. Are we all on the same page? And yeah, honestly, like, there's a lot of things of just like, that would be a whole nother episode being like, here's how you shoot a wedding. But, focus on the couple. Don't forget the details. Be very clear with your expectations.
Yep.
I think that's an excellent question to end on. We have so many more questions. Like we said, Reddit was on fire. We are going to do a follow-up part 2 coming out next week. So stay tuned for that. After that, we do have a few more listener questions as well as some other interesting topics that you might like. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can see the next stuff coming down the pipeline or hear it on your podcast of choice. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
See you next time for part 2.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.